All right, I want to take you through a walkthrough of the conversion tracking that I've got in my Google Ads account, which takes email form conversions and then loads them back up into Google Ads so that I can see conversion values. And I just want to quickly show you, this is ultimately what we are wanting to see. In through here, I will change these over to primary goals, but I just had them at secondary until I set it up, is that you can actually see now that we have this conversion value that has come in from a form submission or a phone call. So the ultimate goal here is we want to take the conversion action past when someone just fills out a form, like for example, this form here, which many of you may have seen. And what we are doing is that we are then uploading this data. And as you can see from here, we've added in a converted sale. It then loads that data from these combined sales into Google Ads. So once again, what we're doing is we're taking the conversion data past when someone just fills out a form and taking it through to when people actually convert. Now, the power of this is that the more and more of this conversion data that we're feeding back into Google Ads, it's giving a stronger indication of not only who fills out the form, but who convert, especially when we're using campaigns like a Performance Max campaign or bidding strategies around maximize conversion value. Google will be able to better target the users which are more likely to not only fill out a form, but ultimately convert. Now, I do want to give a really big warning here in that the steps that I'm about to take you through may not work for your website. And it's near or impossible for me to give a one size fits all. And the reason for that is because there's so many different elements to take into account, especially around the way that your website shares information and the triggers that are used. So it is quite likely that you may have to engage with your web team like I did for mine and get them to help me complete these steps. The other note that I do want to say here as well is that if you are using a third-party sales system like Salesforce, or if you were to use another one like HubDoc, there's countless ones out there. If you were to do a search for import enhanced conversion values into Google Ads and then use your name, you can see here that many of these have some different support documents in there already. So that is one thing that I'd also say is to also reach out to your CRM, because there are going to be more and more solutions coming out. Once again, at the time of recording, this is quite a new process. It's taken me and my team quite a number of months to get it to this level. We will obviously be updating it as we get more and more data that comes through, but this is the current process that we have got. And as I said, this is different. Like, we've run this across 5 different accounts. There is some different things we've had to do. This is the cleanest that we've been able to give. But as I'm saying, it is highly likely that you will have to enable your developer to finally to get this to work. All right, but there are 3 main elements. You need to do some settings in Google Ads. You need to do some settings in Google Tag Manager, and then you need to also come back and do some further settings in Google Ads. So firstly, what we want to do, this first part about it, is that you want to set up Google Ads conversion tracking. And I need to stress that this is not an import from Google Analytics 4 or Google Analytics, because what we need is we need the conversion ID and conversion label. What I want to do now is I want to show you the process of how to set up the first step of this, which is the Google Ads conversion tracking. And remembering that what we want this to be, that's the actual one I've got there. So I just want to show you this, is that we want this to be not coming from Google Analytics or Universal Analytics. We want this to be in-housed within Google Ads, because what we need to do is that we need to get the user tag, which is the conversion ID, and the conversion label, which is right here. So the way that we would do this is go to new conversion action, select website, add in the website domain, then click scan. Now you can see from here, I've already got a conversion action set up on this page. I'm seeing this option, but what we want to do is we want to add manually a new one. We want this to be either a contact or a form lead submit. It doesn't really matter. Now I'm going to just write form submit, and I'm going to put the new tag new here because we've got one. Now for in here, we want to use different values for each conversion, because remember, we're going to be setting this up later. And then from there, we just want to go down and make sure that we've got enhanced conversions to be turned on. Then you want to go through and click done. And what you want to get from here is you want to go to the settings and then go through and click save and continue. And then from there, what you want to be going is you want to be going into use Google Tag Manager. And when you're in Google Tag Manager, you want to be copying this user ID and also this code from here. So we've got this set up in here. Now I am going to just put this on secondary. Keep yours on primary. The reason why I've set this up as secondary here is because, as I said, that was a duplicate that I created just to give you an example. So I'll remove this after this training. The reason being is because I've already got this set up in here. And when we're going in through here, this is the conversion ID and the conversion label that we need to copy. Now, I just keep that window open. So we've gone through firstly and set up this Google Ads section. So now I want to show you the process of going through and setting up your Google Tag Manager. And the way that we do this, first we need to add a new tag in Google Tag Manager called Google Ads Tags. And this is where we need that conversion ID and conversion label that we've got in Google Ads, which is this one in here and this one in here. So what we need to be doing, and this is the first one I'm setting up in through here, which is called Google Ads Tags. You can see that I've set this up as a Google Ads conversion tracking with a conversion ID and a conversion label, and then we've got user provided data. So I'm gonna show you how we go through and do this. So what you need to do is you need to go into tags, go new. I'm gonna call this Google Ads Tags, but I'm just gonna put new in here. You don't need to do that, but just so I know the difference. We're going to go to Google Ads, and this is going to be Google Ads conversion tracking. And from here, we go into our Google Ads account. This is where we get the conversion ID. Then we also need the conversion label. And then from here, I'm going to show you these settings. You can keep the rest blank, but what we need to do is we need to include user provided data from your website. Now, the reason for why this is important is because this is going to be allow us, when someone fills out the form, it sends their email into Google's data so that we can then match it with our uploaded data later. So what we need to do in here is you want to select this option, include user provided data. Now I've already got user provided data in here as a variable. You will have to create a new data variable called user provided data and then select manual configuration and use EC email. So let me show you that part. So obviously here, I've already got this in here, so I can just select user provided data. But if you go to new variable, it's obviously on user provided data. And what you want to have here is when you go to email, you want to use EC email. And then from there, you go through and click save. Obviously, I'm not going to be clicking save. The reason for that is because we've already got user provided data. So that's the way that you go through and create the new variable and also select the manual configuration to use EC email. And then from there, you set this trigger by using form submission. So what that means is that when we're in here, in triggering, we go to form submission and then we go through and click save. And then from there, we need to run a preview test in Google Tag Manager. So the way that you go through and do that is you go through and run preview. Now I'm going to be using this Google Tags as the test. So we go to preview. And when you're in the preview, you need to get a URL that has that form on it. We'll use this one. Now, if you've never been inside of a Google Ads testing window, I'll just make this a little bit smaller so we can see it. You do need to make sure that you can see this tag assistant has been set up. And then the window behind it, go through and click continue. This lets us know if these are firing. Now, obviously the one that we want to make sure that has fired is the Google Ads tags. So we want to make sure that Google Ads tags is firing. So what we need to do from here is we run a preview test in Google Tag Manager, and then when you've clicked the form on your website, check the tag that was fired to make sure it says CSS provided enhanced conversion value. Let me show you how that looks. So what you do need to do, you need to go and do finalized email on here. So I'm just going to go define. So what I've done in here is I've actually gone through, and you need to do a complete fill out of the form and then click submit. Then what you want to do from there is that you want to come over here and we can actually see that this Google Ads tag has fired. Next thing we want to do is that we need to check the tag that was fired to make sure the tag says CSS provided enhanced conversion value. And so if we go through and click Google Ads tags, go into form submit in here. And what you can see from here is that CSS provided conversion value, it is actually showing the email here, and it's going to be manually putting that data through. So we do need to make sure that we're seeing that email in here. So once again, just go into the show more, see the CSS provided enhanced conversion value. You need to make sure that that is the email. And the reason for that is because when we go through and upload data back into Google Ads, the conversion value is going to be matched with that email. So it's really, really important that you see that in there. Once you've then done that, that's the first tag that needs to be set up in Google Tag Manager. We then need to set up two other tags, which is the conversion linker, and also we need to add a new tag in Google Ad Manager called Enhanced Conversion Data Report. These ones are a little bit more simple, and as you can probably see, you can see what I mean, how this is quite a technical process. So where you want to go in through here with setting up the conversions linker is that we just need to set this up as a conversion linker, and it's linking everything in Google Ads. So this is quite an easy one. So we go new. Once again, I'll call this new conversions linker. We want to select this one, conversion linker. And then what we want to do is we want to enable linking on all page URLs. And we want this to trigger on all pages. So what this is doing is that this is something that Google uses, so we can just select all pages, is that this is going to be helping to link all of the data together. So that step, set up conversion linker. And then we also need to add a third tag, which is the Google Tag Manager called Enhanced Conversion Data Report. And this is this one in here, Enhanced Conversion Data Report. We need the conversion ID again. So the way that we would do this is we're gonna set a new one. Once again, I'll call this new. And this time the tag configuration needs to be in Google Ads, and we need to use this one, Google Ads User Provided Data Event. We still need to use the conversion ID from Google Ads, which is this one in here. And once again, we want to be selecting user provided data. If you don't have that there, go into the new variable, and then you can create the user provided data like I showed you before. And then this one needs to be triggering on form submission, which is in here. Then once that's set up, you go through and click save. So once you've got these three conversions set up, which is the Google Ads tags, the conversions linker, and the enhanced conversion data report, you need to go through and click submit. And if you don't click submit, these won't be working on your website first. So you do need to make sure that you've gone through and published these changes. So then once that is done, it then comes into this last step, which is you need to import your conversion in Google Ads. So this one is from here, is we're back in Google Ads, but this time you need to set up a conversion in Google Ads using the import option. And you want to select manual import using API or uploads, and then track conversions from clicks. So when we're in Google Ads, we want to go into conversions, and this is the one that I've got in here, converted course sales. But I'll show you how we've gone through and set this up. So we go new conversion action, and we want to use the import option this time. And this is where we're using manual import using API or uploads, and we want to track conversions from clicks. And this is going to be set up as a converted lead. And in my one, we've called it, converted sales. Now for this one, you want to be using different values for each conversion. And then from there, we want to go through, and we're happy for it to be 90 days and also data driven, and click create and continue. Now there is one more action that we need to complete, and that is we need to use this Google Sheet. And if I show you from here, you need to use these values, which is from here. And what this is happening in here is that when we enter in an email, now what you need to do is you need to copy the sheet into your own. So you do need to create a copy. But when you've got this set up, is that what will happen in here is that when I type in my email, I want you to watch this row in here. You can see here that now that has changed it over to a hashed email, is what we call a hashed email in here. So that when we have some aligned conversion values, that is then what Google takes. Remembering when we did our preview test before and we saw this email that was in there, that is the email which is going to show Google that that's the common theme. And if we had a conversion value of say $500, that would put that value into Google Ads. So what you do need to do when you're in Google Ads, the last thing that you need to go through and do is you need to go into your uploads. And this is what we're doing in here. We're creating an upload schedule, and you want to select the source, which will be a Google Sheet, and we want to link it to an existing Google Sheet. Now, what you need to make sure is that in your Google Sheet, you need to share this in through here. So the way that you would do that is that in my Google Sheet, when you go to share, you can see that we have this sharing permissions in here. So you firstly also need to go through copy this and add that into a sharing with that email. So once that's done, you need to link an existing Google Sheet. Now it is really, really important to make sure that you are already in the same account. So it needs to be in the same Google account. We've got this one in here. We click select, and what you want to do from here is that you then want to go through and apply this, and this will go through and it'll run it. Now I'm seeing some errors here, but I do know that this is working. And then what you need from there is that you need to go through to the schedules. You can just go through and change it. I have set this to run every day. As I've said, when this is set up correctly, you'll see these values coming in through here. So one other point that I will make is that in some cases, this has taken up to 2 or 3 or even 4 weeks for us to see the data. And the reason for that is because once you have set this up, you do need to wait about 3 or 4 weeks, then download your sales data and import it into Google Ads, because it won't pick up data previous to these Google Ads tags and conversions setting up. So if someone was to complete the form today and they don't convert for another 4 or 6 weeks, you're not going to get that conversion data in until they've actually converted. So I do know that this was quite a technical screen share. As I said, full upfront honesty, for me, I needed some extra support from my web developer to get this finalized. So if you are having troubles, what I would do is I would enlist the support of your web development team, because this is getting, as we said in the teaching slides, this is a really, really technical process, but it is highly, highly valuable. That's why I recommend that you do spend the time to get this right in your Google Ads account. Alrighty. That's how we go through and the process of setting up your enhanced conversions in Google Ads.